Social media can be used for messy drama and mindless rants, but tonight on the 504, we're talking about how it can be used for change. 3 local artists and activists discuss social media as being used to highlight some important issues and celebrate being Black. And Brandon Odoms is behind the popular outdoor art exhibit, Exhibit B. Find out what he's got up his sleeves next. Plus, we're checking back in on a documentary that airs tonight on WUPL. I'm Sheba Turk, and the 504 starts right now. Good evening and welcome to the 504. We have all heard about Black Twitter. It's the people tweeting about things interesting to the Black community. And let's just remember how epic some of Black Twitter's moments have been. There was the hashtag #AskRachel. I don't think anyone can forget the NAACP chapter president Rachel Dolezal, who had been posing as a Black woman for years. Twitter erupted with questions that were supposed to verify if someone was really Black. Like this one that asked for the name of the remote control. And then Black Twitter didn't take a break for the holidays. That's when we started seeing the hashtag Thanksgiving with Black families. And of course, we could all relate to the things that Black people were dealing with over the holidays. Here's one of the funniest ones. When your mom says no more pie and your grandma says, let that baby eat. All right, you get the point. Thanks to social media, millennials are embracing their Blackness in new ways. The hashtags and the movements are sometimes funny, sometimes controversial. They're also sparking some important conversations about everything from criminal justice to beauty trends. And we're talking about it all tonight. Joining us for the conversation is 3 local activists and artists. We've got Brandon B. Mike Odoms, who is the mind behind Exhibit B that turned an abandoned Algiers apartment complex into an art project. Quest, who was on the show to talk about this, he was very active in the movement to get the Confederate monuments to come down, and Frequency with the Black Youth Project 100 and NewOrleanians.com. So welcome to the show. I know you've all been here before, but this was a conversation we thought you guys would be great to weigh in. So welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's kick it off with the hashtag that's been trending for a while now, Oscars So White, of course, for the 2nd year in a row. All of the acting nominations left out Black actors, all white nominations. So I want to start with you, Quest, and just talk about, we've heard some actors saying, hey, the right thing here is to boycott. Some are saying this is our time to break off and not be included. Maybe we should have our own awards and not even try to be included in the Oscars. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think it's really kind of undergirds everything we're talking about today, because we're talking about representation or lack thereof. And when it comes to the Oscars So White piece, you know, I love to see that type of reactionary internet activism, because there's sometimes no other way to get our voice out when obviously it's been censored. When you had amazing, actors and filmmakers for the past however many years and for the last 2 years, especially the time right now where we have to say that our lives matter just in terms of everyday life. You know what I mean? And you try to create and represent something artistically, and even that doesn't get any kind of recognition. It's pretty unconscionable. So I'm fully for that movement, and I support it.
Yeah, and what's great about these hashtags, right, they do a really great job, I feel like, of identifying the problem, of sometimes making it funny, sometimes make it so controversial that people can't ignore it. The conversation, though, starts behind how do you solve that problem, right? Because some people have said the solution is to boycott, that Black actors and actresses who are invited shouldn't show up. Some have said to do the complete opposite. What do you guys think about a solution for this here?
Oh, you looking at me? Oh.
Y'all both have great things to say. Go ahead, Frequency.
Specifically for like Oscars So White, I think like Quest is saying, it's true that what's really underlying it is like a question of like reform versus putting together a whole new system and a structure. So with the Oscar, if it's like reform and like make it so that Black actors are included in different ways, or is it that, like folks are saying, set up a whole new system where we reward Black actors, whether that's a different system in the BET Awards or something else. But that's a conversation that's translated beyond the Academy to things like Black Lives Matter, like we're talking about. So do we try and reform the system that we're currently in, or is this, are we at a time where we're actually supposed to be dismantling and trying to rebuild something else because what we have is so broken? So I think that question just comes down to the degree of brokenness of the system that it's in, because some things I think can't actually be fixed. They're beyond repair. So you have to restart a new thing, a new system, and it's a waste of energy and resources to try and fix something when you know it can't actually be fixed.
Yeah, and there's definitely no easy fix here. All right, we're moving on. We talked about beauty trends, and this is an important one, right? Because it goes back to self-esteem and feeling like you are beautiful. I feel like Twitter is doing a great job with this now. People go on to do the Melanin Mondays and the Black Girl Magic, and you see beautiful Black women being celebrated. Why is this so important?
I think it's important because it's not beauty as we understand it. Like there's a very specific and narrow notion of beauty as we understand it in this country, and it's one that has historically excluded Black women especially, but also other kinds of women. So when you have things like Melanin Monday or Black Girl Magic, it's not just about like celebrating beauty, it's about expanding the definition of beauty, and specifically within the Black community, expanding it so it means all Black women. And one of the dangers of movements like this, and I hope and I really pray that Black Girl Magic doesn't go in that way, is turning it into a hierarchy of like, oh, well, this Black Girl Magic is better than this and this, when it's really supposed to be about all Black girls, and the fact that inherently as Black girls, no matter what we look like, you know, no matter how we choose to wear our hair or our clothing, we have magic because we are Black girls.
I think you bring up a great point there, because then it becomes, right, that new stratified layer of like, okay, well, this Black is even more beautiful than this Black, whether it's because it's darker or because it's lighter. How do you keep the movement as a whole, B. Mike?
I mean, I think it's all about affirmation. It's all about reminding people that who you are is good enough and who you are is beautiful. And I think that's what all these different hashtags and representations is all about, this idea that I have value. And I think that's what's being asserted in all of these movements. And I think as long as it doesn't stray away from that idea, I think it'll find its way to asserting that Black Girl Magic is enough. That phrase is enough. It doesn't have to be broken down anymore. It doesn't have to be categorized anymore. Like, that's enough.
All right, and of course, the one that kicked off it all probably was Black Lives Matter. I think when we really started paying attention to social media and hashtags that really matter to the Black community, of course, this came out of the death of Trayvon Martin in 2013. And this is one of those, it has been so broad, it's been misconstrued in the media many times about what it means. How do you take a movement like this that is doing so well on social media in terms of people now saying, hey, I know what it is, but people kind of don't know what it is? How do you kind of focus it, B. Mike?
I mean, it's the simple right of a living being, is to say that I matter, is to say that in the midst of the space that I exist in, and I have to assert myself. I think it's unfortunate that it has to take place by way of a hashtag for Black people, but I think it's no different from what anybody says, what they would want to say when they wake up every morning, is that I matter. And I think the Black Lives Matter movement is, the prerequisite of that is to understanding that all lives matter. So when people try to distract it and be like, oh, all lives matter, but to say Black Lives Matter is a firm understanding that all lives matter. It's saying that at this point we have to be specific because we're dealing with specific circumstances. And I think it's just a part of it's no different from James Brown saying, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. It's just a new way of the younger generation asserting that. And I think it's at that point when we say we're valuable is the point when things begin to change. Because to be an activist is just to be a person who says that I matter. It's a response. You know, if somebody push your mom down the stairs, you're going to respond. If somebody slap you, you're going to respond. It's no different. It's we're saying we matter in response to what's happening. You know, it wasn't like we just want to we just made this up. Yeah, you know what I mean? This is a specific response to what's happening. And I think that's what's being missed out on when people see this hashtag. They're not reminding of why it's being said. They just hear it and get offended. But it's a specific response.
Not meant to be offensive, definitely. All right, thank you so much. All right, well, later on tonight, we've got a preview of a documentary that's airing after the 504. It's called The Exceptionally Extraordinary Emporium, and it takes a look at what goes into making all of those fabulous Mardi Gras costumes. But up next, we continue this conversation with our panel about some important conversation they themselves are sparking.